Yo guys, with an example of a video, I want to tell you guys that here is the reason why you are not improving. You don't know what to learn, you are not pushing your limits, and you are not observing how better players are playing a certain champion in a certain matchup to learn from them. Because that's the fastest, most efficient way. So for example, Volibear is strong against that, that's true, but level 1 he does lose pretty hard and he gets heavily traded into when he tries to eat the first 3 minions. Now, one of the notable things is identifying at what point does the enemy champion hard counter you and what kind of cooldowns could you play around to outplay your opponent. So in here we can see that as much as possible he's doing his best to sidestep the volley. He's always stay on the side of the wave because he will try to farm it in the early levels. And one of the notable things is he does have a level advantage due to the strength difference of the champions. And even though, yes, Volibear does connect a really nice QE, he's not giving up his W yet, because one of the cool things that you can do is actually use the shield to dive. So, for example, Volibear used his E. Now, Volibear's E has 12-second cooldown, and because he knows it's still on cooldown, he's allowed to all-in very smoothly. So one basic into the tower, so the secondary basic attack is a power. And notably, you can also use Ignite for a very nice all-in, flash basics, and he uses actually W now, because if he used W earlier just to deal a little extra damage with no grit, then what would happen is that he's less likely to wave clear the next wave by someone Wing it, and also he's less likely to, actually he will just die. He will just die. So these are like the key things that mechanically you have to watch out for. And just like knowing at which stage of the game how strong you are depending on like the champion differences per se, you'll be able to actually like outplay your opponent if you learn their cooldowns, mechanically outplay them, position correctly around their abilities. And so even though, yes, like right now Seth has a certain advantage, Volibear still can be kind of a threat. Now, of course, this guy did misplay a little bit. He's getting spaced, he's getting stunned. So there are ways for you to short trade into him. He's trying to connect the basic, but he's getting minion blocked, and he's using his W just because he can get a very efficient trade-off. In here, same logic, he backs off, avoids his E, because there are no minions to last it, and avoids his W by backing off. So sometimes over trading is a bad thing. That's why you want to disengage from Volibear's W most of the times. It does too much damage, it heals too much, it could connect his Q. And one of the things I kind of like want to point out is that for now, let's turn on the sound. This is the word to build secondary noise. He does have R, so we have a level advantage, which means if we get to heavily trade, we could even pull him out of his own E actually, which would normally allow him to survive, but you know, if you get a good angle, he does heavily trade again, does trigger the tower's aggro. Now Volibear does have a cloak armor for now, and he does have his E, but he gets hooked out, and the reason why does he do go for this play is because he gets a R angle into Volibear. So he, again, like watch out on the R angle. He gets a stun into R angle, so he can actually pull the Volibear out of his E. And watch, he's fishing for his level 6 Volibear, but one of the key things to watch out for is that he does get a pretty nice all-in. So the important thing to watch out for, we go back again and things a bit, right? When it comes down to dives, it's very important to know when you can dive someone, when you can kill someone, because Set's Q and passive is insane at taking down towers, not only plates. So just so that you know how important it is to kill someone under tower. And again, observe, he initiates with the basic attack into the tower, so he empowers it, connects an E. Actually, I didn't use his E, he combined it with his W. I thought he gonna EW, but what am I talking about? Nah, he just combined it with Somi. Yeah, it does a lot of damage when it comes down to dives. Those are the limit tests. You also have to learn like when can you like 100 to 0 your opponent if you have a set advantage. For example, in here if volley would be 6, obviously you cannot dive him. They could end up very badly, but you know the notable thing is that you do actually like at least you can try to like force a dive. Now in there I think if Volibear pressed his Q, maybe he would then actually just like sort of disengage to the side, and he doesn't get like a hook out, I would say, with his R. but it's important to sort of like limit test these type of dives, because I think this could go totally wrong as well if Volibear positions a bit better, maybe use his Q. But I think he was a bit insecure to use his Q early. And a really nice W. I think he does R, but again, he just doesn't have enough fuel to dive him. That's why I said, like, even though you're ahead, you still have to be careful, because Loki, he hooks him out of his E, so he doesn't get the shield. So that's the idea, you know, like, you also got to know how to combine your abilities to counter their own abilities. And so, like, one of the cool things you can kind of like do in this type of situations is to back off completely until your abilities come up. So same logic applied. Yes, I can kill Volibear here, but now if I all in him, I can kill Volibear. If I back off, I recover my abilities, a little bit I regen up, and then I get to fight him. So notice, once he has his like at least E up, we can go for a really nice E as well. We can all in him very smoothly, and at least we have our Q as well, you know, so at least like we need some abilities. And life goes on, so pretty much it does insta shove the wave. Again, we have Stride Breaker now, so we can play around the all-in kit of Volibear. He gave up his shit. He gets stunned a little bit as well. Does he get stunned a little bit? Gets flashed on, connects the stun, positions around his flash, and he does try to connect a W, but it was mainly for wave clear purposes. And so the cool little thing here is that you capitalize so much off plates and of a whole tower. People are more likely to get feat of strength, which positively affects everyone, not only specifically you. So you really have to get the point that is also like mainly like forcing, choking out this Volibear for now. So he also prefers to sort of heavily trade into him because he's very, very ahead. And this is a Volibear never uses Q. Normally you need to E him when he tries to Q away, but... And he again gets brute force dived, uses W to disengage. Same logic, we can dive him again. The reason for that is very simple. Volibear's R has a way longer cooldown than Set's R. So those are the R cooldown key differences that you have to actually like learn, because otherwise we can throw away our bounty, we don't get the whole plated tower. So just tracking the cooldowns, it's very important. Volibear's R I think has like 160, 180-ish. How much cooldown? 160 at level 6, and we get back to the video, right? As said, it's very good if you get ahead.
If you win early, you win mid late, and you just fucking crush him. You need to bait out his E or his Q. If you bait either of them, you win mid late. If Seth W who wins, if Willy has Doran Wing, Seth wins. If Willy has Doran Blade, Willy wins.
I am the storm. Doesn't connect, is he? And for now, he's expanding his lead as efficiently as possible. Because as I said, it's really nice to like get the lead, just because your W scales like an animal. I would say your Q scales like an animal, and your R, I would say it's useful, it's good, but it's great if they build a lot of HP. You know, it's even better if they build shit ton of HP. So depends, but I think many things scale well on Set. You know, even his passive has like an interesting scaling actually. And in terms of like just raw damage, even without W, it does actually perform quite well, this champion, I would say. And so like one of the things that you can kind of like observe, for now he's also aiming to extend his lead somewhere else. So you broke the top tower. Talon can very efficiently wave clear topside, rotate, whatever, or maybe Serat could actually like push 2 waves, whatever. But at this point he's also fishing for dives. The reason for that, now it is gonna be a bit overcomplicated for beginners, but if you opened up one top tower, if your champion is very, very strong at dives, and in general it's very good at dishing out a lot of damage, you kinda like wanna actually roam, look for some good perhaps dive into getting a plated tower. Aegon R, I didn't R, it's a bit sad. If he R'd, I would say he would definitely secure the kill, but maybe it's not completely worth for him. Again, he capitalizes as much as possible off, while also trying his best to spare the tower. With Serat, they collapse on Volibear. Volibear might not be able to take it down, I would say. Might not be able to take it down at all. It does get picked up actually. He's brute forcing the tower down, but no cigar. And for now, again, like he's just one-shotting the wave as quick as possible. is aiming to get the Herald, and even in terms of like macro, you have to like know what to learn. So one of the key things is that you have to know what you don't know, because if you uh, like if you just think you know everything, then you just barely give yourself any space to learn new things. And if you know what you can like improve on, what you don't know, then that already like gives you a better opportunity to like see, observe what do you lack in, what can you get better at, right? Now that was my Discord notification, not yours, so don't worry about that, Chopania. um, does rotate back really nicely to lane. um, Again, it's a very simple 1v2. We just kill the Volibear. This guy perma overextends, and we get the smooth, easy peasy lemon squeezy kill on this guy. Um, yeah, it's perfect. He builds his generic Black Cleaver. It's really good at penning armor in general. Because this champion does lack like armor pen in its kit. He has massive damage, but armor pen is lacking. And so the interesting thing about Black Cleaver is because you have so much AoE, and notably your Stride also gives AoE, if they have multiple melee frontliners, in no time you're gonna pen all of their armor, and generally speaking it provides nice stats Black Cleaver into a really solid Overlord's Bloodmail, which is almost like it's made for Seth because he's such a perfect HP AD scaler. So even knowing like the builds on like what's required, what's gonna be the most useful, usually if you go for this build it's a no-brainer, but it's also very important game to know what you build. But if you don't feel like thinking a lot, you can just switch your boots in between versus AD AP champs, for example. Against basic attackers, AD champs, you go plated. Marks against full of champs with full of CC and AP damage, but primarily against CC. Um, then against Swift is just like snowball, anti-slow potential. Because this champion tends to be very like immobile, so there are some like key things you can kind of like watch out for. But generally speaking, the idea is there that at least you know like the core build, and around that you can like sort of cook something up. But notably, I don't have to think too hard as a beginner on builds. If you just follow up this meta build, it's kind of a no-brainer. Has mobility, has damage. No, actually this time he goes Hullbreaker for splitting potential just because he's so ahead, and they have some champs that could potentially wave clear. Not really, actually, not really if I think about it. They have low degree of wave clear, but even that can be cutted very easily with the help of Hullbreaker, to the point where you're breaking these towers in no time. So Hullbreaker is a bit more of a side lane oriented items. It does have like teamfight validity as well, because like these days it works even in teamfights, and the damage is just massive you dish out, you know. You have a decent degree of attack speed on this champion, so the one hit is not even bad, honestly. In comparison, if you constantly basic attack, sure, Overlord provides more W damage, but if you can constantly basic attack, you can actually out DPS, I would say, Overlord's Bloodmail. So there are really ups and downs, but Hullbreaker also provides mobility, which is very important if you struggle to catch up. So that's where like the problem sometimes starts. You can't really physically catch up so easily. So in those type of situations, at least you can say, alright bro, at least now I get to like gap close. And check out, he didn't even use Q yet. This damage was nasty. Nasty. What do we do here? Basic, and the game is soon over. At this point, the game is